News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Horrific information coming out on the Jocelyn Nungare case, the beautiful 12-year-old girl who snuck out of her bedroom after mom gave her a kiss and tucked her in for the night, and went to a 7-Eleven, was on the phone talking to her boyfriend, and as she was walking into the 7-Eleven, two of Joe Biden's illegals that just came over the border illegally, stamped and approved by him, one of whom was wanted for murder, I think, in El Salvador, and yet he was approved to come in. Another is from Venezuela, and they came in this country illegally. One of the two came in weeks ago. The other one came in a couple months ago. But we're talking, between 3 weeks for one and about 8 to 12 weeks for the other. And they are now already accused of now raping Jocelyn. Headline from Fox News: illegal immigrant accused of raping, murdering girl 12 wore ICE ankle monitor when the crime occurred. He had his ICE ankle monitoring band around his ankle at the time he is accused of raping. He took this 12-year-old girl. They lied to her. They said they needed directions. They asked for directions. They then took her over to this area by a bayou and a bridge of some sort. And what we now know is, of course, we knew this before, that they took off her pants. There's no reason to take off somebody's pants before you kill them unless you're sexually assaulting them, in my book. But we now find out today that is in Fox News reporting that they remained with her for over 2 hours, took her pants off, tied her up, killed her, then threw her over her body over the bayou, into the bayou. But they were the words that some are using today in their reports are, she was assaulted for 2 hours. Assaulted. What, they were beating her for 2 hours? No. Fox News headline says accused of raping. The official kit on the rape, looking for certain things, the rape test kit or whatever it was they used, the lab results have not come back. If they confirmed there was a sexual assault, then he gets death penalty if they want to, and they've said they will do that today. But Fox News reporting accused of raping today in the headline, and also I heard Martha McCallum say it today. All right, so that's where we're at now. That is why her pants will be tied on. But I want you to understand something. Could you imagine a 12-year-old girl innocently sneaking out of her room to go to 7-Eleven and talk to her boyfriend, being stupid, but that's what we do when we're 12 through 18, 19, 20 years old. We do stupid things. Only she died for it. But here, I want you to think of this. The last 2 hours of her life, she was being raped, according to these reports. You're 12, and her mom has a shirt on today. I'm going to play her mom right here. Actually, I'll play it for you in a second. I want to give out her number. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Do you think these horrific new details move the needle for Americans who are on the fence about Joe Biden's illegal immigration policies? Is this kind of a big enough deal to move this whole tide against Biden more so in his legal invasion? And do you want the death penalty for these two men if they're convicted, as I do? 800-288-9227 is our number. 800-288-WBAP. But just last thing before we go to Wayne in Dallas, who's called in on this, plus your call, chime in right now, 800-288-WBAP. The last 2 hours of this girl's life, according to some reports I heard today, were of two of Joe Biden's illegals holding her down, ripping her pants off, and raping her, taking turns raping her. That's her last 2 hours of her life and her memory. And then murdering her and throwing over a bridge into a bayou, and somebody driving by, going to drop off or pick up their loved one for work, saw what they literally thought was a, quote, mannequin. A mannequin. And then when they realized it was a person, they called 911. So just think about the last 2 hours of your beautiful, precious daughter. This girl is a beautiful little girl. Imagine the last 2 hours of your daughter being done to her because Joe Biden let him in. Wayne in Dallas, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM, or I should say, welcome to WBAP. Hello, Wayne.
Well, good evening. Thanks for taking my call. I'll just make this really quick. You asked who would be the pick. Logically, J.D. Vance would be really great.
We're not talking about the vice president. We're talking about Jocelyn Noongray's case, the murders of the 12-year-old girl, and they're now accusing of raping her. Okay, but what are your three picks?
I apologize.
What are your three picks? Okay, he hung up. All right, well, okay. Well, there he is. I thought he was talking about the story we were talking about now, but okay. I mean, I would have let him say him, so all right. 800-288-WBAP is our number. So the girl's body was found at 6:49 a.m. under the bridge. Channel 2 in Houston says she was nude from the waist down. Hands and feet were bound. That's the other thing I forgot to share with you. Her hands were bound behind her back. A little girl. She had cuts on her backside, and the cause of death is strangulation. These are the only word that I'm being heard them being called today is I hear them being called today as monsters. That's exactly what they are. These are evil, wicked monsters that Joe Biden led into this country to murder one of our daughters. Here's Mom speaking today. She held a little press conference.
I was looking forward to seeing how beautiful she was going to grow up to be. And I know God is real, God is good, and they will feel God's wrath.
Can you just explain what Forever 12 is on your shirt?
Okay, it says, he said, I don't know if you could hear that, but he said, could you explain why you have Forever 12 on the shirt you're wearing right now, okay?
Forever 12, she'll never be a teenager, so she'll forever be 12.
That's another thing you have to realize, that your poor daughter's never going to be a teenager. She didn't even live to be a teenager. And for possibly 2 hours, she was sexually assaulted. I really get mad when they say she was assaulted for 2 hours. Like, that says they were beating her up for 2 hours. Yeah, that's what it was. It angers me. Tell the truth. Not to be salacious, but to tell the truth of the violence and the brutality that Joe Biden has led and the evil, the pure evil Joe Biden's led into this country. And by the way, I heard Paul Morrow, former New York police detective and defense attorney and all sorts of things now on Fox, and he said if it's just 2% of the people that Joe Biden's let in are criminals like this, that's a couple 100,000. Hardcore, violent, evil, sadistic, wicked, and sick terrorist murderers that Joe Biden has led into this country. A couple 100,000. And they've struck with Miss Moran, I should say, in Maryland, a mother of 5. They struck a 13-year-old girl in New York City at the park in Queens this past week. They struck Jocelyn in Houston. And there's so many more cases. Laken Riley, who Joe Biden called Lincoln. And an adult disabled woman, mentally disabled woman in Boston, and then also a 14-year-old girl sexually assaulted, or was it 15, in Boston as well, by 2 of Joe Biden's illegals. Those are ones he flew in direct from Haiti. Just come straight in, come murder and or rape people. Come on in. That's what he's doing. And that's what Trump should bring up in the debate. Joe, have you ever said their name? You said Lincoln Riley. It's Laken Riley. And have you ever called her parents? Joe, have you called Miss Moran? I forget her first name. There's so many of these horrible victims that are made. Do you remember her name? Since it's your policy that are doing this to these women, and did you call her family like I did? And I don't know what Jocelyn Noongray's mom is going to end up saying or doing, but at that press conference today, I really wish, I don't know if anybody did, but I really wish somebody would have said, do you feel that Joe Biden's immigration policy plays a role in this, since he's let in over 10 million illegal migrants, in the past 3.5 years. And these two guys came in and were approved to come in just in the past couple weeks to a couple months. Does that have a bearing on? Do you have any issue with that? Do you take issue for that or blame him for that? You can ask that gently, but I would ask that. Okay, Jacob in Dallas, we're going to talk to you next. Stand by. He'll be first out of the box, plus your call. Do you think these horrific new details about the alleged sexual assault for 2 hours of the 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungray with her hands tied behind her back, do you think these horrific new details move the needle for Americans who might be on the fence about Joe Biden's illegal immigration policies? Do you want the death penalty for these two men if they're convicted and they qualify for the death penalty? I sure do. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. Sheer horror in the Jocelyn Nungray case. We find out that she was assaulted for 2 hours. Fox News saying sexually assaulted. And what appears to have been a 2-hour sexual assault with her pants taken down, her hands tied up behind her back, and her ankles tied together. Sheer horror and hell for this beautiful little girl who made the mistake of leaving at night, sneaking out of her apartment without her mom's knowledge. And they initially tried to get directions from her, but they were just lying to her to lure her and bring her over to another area where they would do this. It's horror and it's hell. And I pray that they qualify for the death penalty. If it's proven and the tests from the lab haven't come back yet, if it shows rape, then that's it. They're going to put him to death, and they should. And I could give a frog's fat, about any, how like Mexico is anti-death penalty, and they make huge incidents if we have somebody on death row that's from Mexico. Well, I haven't heard anything about that being an issue, but it darn well better not be. And if it is, then just do what we got to do. End it. Do what we got to do. Put him to death. And this isn't vengeance, this is justice. As Mom said in the soundbite I played for you, God's wrath, which you do not want to face. Jacob in Dallas, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP.
Chris, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, thank you. Well, hold on a second then. You get a little special something here. Hold on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to make a point that it's not Joe Biden letting them in. It's an invasion that's wrapped up in a pretty little bow of inclusivity.
Inclusivity?
And that's, thank you. I'm a little nervous first time.
That's okay.
And I can't think of a worse way for someone to spend the last moments of their life being completely tortured, something that's not spoken about. Sexually
tortured, which is humiliating and demeaning much more.
It's awful.
Dehumanizing.
Very. And something that no one mentions is that this kind of behavior is extremely prevalent in that culture, as well as the normalization of crimes, with Mexico having such a forgiving and weak judicial system, if you even want to call it that.
Now, these guys are from, I believe they're either both from Venezuela or one is from, actually both men are from Venezuela. Forgive me. I got that confused with Rachel Marin's accused murderer who is from, I believe, El Salvador.
Isn't it sad that there's so many of these?
I can't keep track. There's so many victims.
You can't keep track. I think they should be put to death, and I don't think it should be lethal injection. I think we've both seen a couple of spaghetti westerns, and we know how those criminals were took out.
Okay, so do you think this, now that we're finding out that some reports are saying she was sexually assaulted for 2 hours, and again, we have to wait for the test to come back, but Fox News says illegal immigrant accused of murdering girl wore ICE ankle monitor when he was doing these vile crimes, according to authorities. So do you think these new horrific details actually move the needle for the Americans who are on the fence or kind of bothered by Joe Biden's policies? I mean, could this be it? We keep thinking it's going to be it, and the media keeps ignoring it.
honestly, if it doesn't push your needle, there's something wrong with you, and you've allowed your ideology to control every aspect of your life.
I want to remind everybody, too, very important, we talked about this Friday night, I went nuts on this, the Associated Press and CBS News, whose story was on CBS DFW, Channel 11's website, unfortunately, both the AP and CBS News refused to mention that they were illegal migrants allowed in by Joe Biden.
Of course they did.
They just called them men. They didn't call them illegals. They didn't call them nationals. Yeah,
I'm not surprised in the least, Chris.
You are not allowed to know. These people are here to rape us and murder us and kill us and rob us.
Exactly.
And you are not allowed to know they came in 3-4 weeks ago from Joe Biden and a couple months ago. You are not allowed. Let it continue. Shut up and don't talk about it.
Exactly.
Right?
If you think that these people are here to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and to work hard,
I don't care. I don't care if the majority of them are. I don't care. They need to get the heck out of here. And Trump's going to do that.
I hope and pray.
They all need to leave. That recent poll that came out, I think it was from Gallup or Pew or one of the big ones, 56% of Americans want all these illegals deported. 56% of Americans. It's like one of the highest numbers ever in decades. 56% of United States, Americans say they want these illegals gone. All of them. Out. Thank God. They've seen enough. Okay, next. I don't know if you caught this today and yesterday. It's been on my Twitter feed. You got to follow me on Twitter so you won't miss this stuff. I do a lot of tweeting at Chris Krok Show, at Chris Krok Show on Twitter, CHRASKROK. There was over the weekend, a Jewish synagogue. Jews were disallowed from going into their own temple to worship, and they were beaten in the streets, including women, by Jew haters in Los Angeles. It was loud. They destroyed a chance to worship, and they beat Jews right in front of their own place of worship. That's coming up next on the Chris Krok Show. I've got audio and I've got details next on the Chris Krok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. All right, we had horrible violence and attacks on Jews trying to go to worship in front of their congregation. And the LA police stood back and did nothing. And the mayor, Karen Bass, did nothing. And I have a guy who was there covering this that is a Jewish reporter, Jewish media guy. I'll share what his notes are that were pretty interesting. He was there on the ground. Wall Street Journal reporting on this, saying that this happened at the Adas Torah synagogue. It is in a heavily Jewish neighborhood called in the LA called Pico Robertson neighborhood. Wall Street Journal says it's an area with a sizable Jewish population. A pro-Hamas group went to Instagram and they gave out the address of the synagogue and told people to show up there and target that synagogue to protest. The Adas Torah synagogue said Monday protesters were harassing and intimidating anybody who tried to enter that temple to worship. Some people were maced and bear sprayed by the pro-Hamas terrorists outside. I saw one woman, and I'm going to play the audio. This is where you hear one woman being violently beaten. A man was beating her and pinned her down on the ground. Protesters swarmed to try to save this woman, etc. And here's the audio of that part. Well, Joe Biden actually tweeted something about this today. He tweeted a few sentences. He said, blocking access to a house of worship and engaging in violence is never acceptable. Well, I'm looking at a story that came out about 3 weeks ago in the New York Post, a 75-year-old grandmother who's praying out in front of an abortion clinic is arrested and is sentenced to jail, I guess, for 2 years. They're awaiting what's going to go down with that case and that part of it. So a grandmother, a 75-year-old grandmother, 2 years younger than my mom, who's, of course, a grandmother, 75-year-old grandmother praying is arrested and sentenced for 2 years. 2 years of prison. Do you think Joe Biden's Justice Department will be arresting and prosecuting these violent pro-Hamas protesters if it was Trump supporters instead doing this? Do you think that the Justice Department would be coming down on them hard? Having the feds, the FBI raid their houses? What do you think? And how serious do you think this incident is? Because instead of arresting grandmas praying at abortion clinics or raiding the house of a Catholic father who was protesting an abortion clinic with his son was being harassed and intimidated and shoved up on by an adult man, so we stepped in between and pushed the man back. For that, he got his house raided by the FBI. He and his homeschooling family, 8 children and his wife, FBI agents with rifles and tactical gear, demanding to be allowed in the house and to arrest him and arresting grandmas. So I wonder how serious of an incident you think this is. And I wonder if you think Joe Biden would be having his DOJ arresting and prosecuting these violent pro-Hamas protesters if it was Trump supporters doing it instead, if it wasn't. Because he ain't doing anything about them. He released a, 3-sentence statement on Twitter. That's it. Why is he not unleashing his Department of Justice on them like he does grandmas and fathers? This is a Jewish temple. This is intimidating Jews. This is going into their town. There's also a video that I think I retweeted of them roaming the streets looking for Jews after they did this. I mean, this is it. And where's Joe Biden? Couple sentences on a tweet and that's it. So I wish he would prosecute this at least as aggressively as he's prosecuted people that pray at abortion centers. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. 800-288-9227. Do you think Joe Biden's DOJ would be arresting and prosecuting these violent pro-Palestinian protesters if it was Trump supporters instead doing this? And how serious of an incident do you think this is? I think this is huge. This is the country where nobody's supposed to intimidate anybody because of their faith or attack them or block them from entering a house of worship. So, and by the way, this is one of the folks who was there, Daniel Greenfield. He says, quote, "What I saw at the terrorist rally outside Congregation Adas Torah, which means Congregation of the Bible in Los Angeles, LAPD allowed terrorist supporters to occupy both sides of the synagogue while keeping the Jewish counter-protesters out. Only a narrow, protected lane allowed access. There were multiple instances of Jewish community members being maced and bear sprayed with no police response. The LAPD was deployed in riot gear but did nothing for nearly an hour, failed to separate protesters from counter-protesters, intervene, or put up barriers. This is exactly how it had previously played out in the attack by terrorism supporters on the nearby Museum of Tolerance and UCLA, with the LAPD standing there and doing nothing until the violence escalated. Hamas supporters were able to freely roam around a Jewish neighborhood in the Pico Robertson area and threatening people. A Muslim man in a keffiyeh told me, and he's a Jew, quote, "Billions will come to kill you." Some clearly came prepped for violence, like this guy wearing ski goggles in 90-degree weather. Many Jewish community members, including teenage girls and families, took a risk by coming to what they thought would be a safe rally, only to face violence and threats. Allowed by the mayor, the police, etc. So, yeah, I think if these were Trump supporters, they would all be in jail, and it'd be another, mini insurrection of some sort that they'd be describing it. But nothing, absolutely nothing, because it's not the right people. The Jews are oppressors. They are white, and therefore they're oppressors. And that's why they're allowed to be hunted down and targeted and everything like that. It's just sick. By the way, I'm looking at a video that's just come out today of Hersh Goldberg. He's one of the American hostages that was taken by Hamas. And this is what I'm reading from journalist Ali London covering this. He says, this is Hersh Goldberg Pollen. I retweeted it already here on my Twitter feed at Chris Krok Show. It's at Chris Krok Show. He's an American citizen. An American had his arm blown off as he was kidnapped October 7th. This American can be seen being brutalized by his kidnappers in the back of a pickup truck. They're taking him back to, I believe, Hamas land, a.k.a. Gaza. This American has been held for 261 days. Where's the American media outrage? I think he was just released recently, if I'm not mistaken. Or actually, no, apparently he's not. He was used as propaganda in one of the Hamas videos. I'll listen to this video, make sure I can play it for you. It's sick, and they're beating him like they're just grabbing him by the hair, throwing him around, and slapping him in the face as he lies there half dead from his hand being blown off by a terrorist grenade. It's just horror, sheer horror. All right, coming up next to the Chris Krok Show at News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. The new White House official, a new White House official, oh, you got to hear about this. A new White House official deletes thousands of tweets amid a backlash. He just got a big promotion. He's top dog now in the Biden administration under one of their departments. And he looks like he's a new Sam Brinton. Remember Sam Brinton? The guy who was stealing women's luggage all over the country at airports? Who had pictures of himself with a gag ball, half naked to fully naked, being bent over by other men on his social media and such. Well, there's a new White House official with a big promotion he just got, and he has a lot of bad stuff in his closet about what he says about so many things, and yet he's promoted. We'll talk about that coming up next on the Chris Krok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay, we have Sam Brinton part 2. Remember him? He is the LGBTQ plus category where he is in all of his social media pictures, or a lot of them. He's got gag balls in his mouth. He's bent over, like sex furniture to be had his way with, naked or almost fully naked in these pictures that are available all over the web. Now it looks like they got a new guy that's just as way out there and similar. To me, he is a Sam Brinton part and it's an extremely stupid decision to give this guy a job, let alone promote him. He has just been promoted to the Associate Communications Director at the White House. Associate Comms Director at White House. That's a big deal, isn't it? That's way up there. And he's got pictures of himself in all these way extreme LGBTQ type pictures. All you got to do is look up his name, Tyler Cherry, and you'll see a million stories about him and all these pictures like, whoa, he's a Sam Brinton, basically, to me. As far as being so out there, it's like you're hiring the guy because to me, they're hiring him because he wears dresses and is extreme, way out there on that. The more way out there, the more they want to hire that person, I swear to you. And the more that they're like this, the more they're likely to be mentally ill, I think. It's not normal to go way crazy over the top like this guy, especially what he says. Here's what he says. What he says is a big reason, too, to think this guy's mentally ill. Look. Okay, so he was promoted to Associate Communications Director at the White House after 3 years of working for Department of Interior Secretary Deb Haaland. He deleted all of a sudden, because I'm going to read you some of his former posts, he deleted almost 2,500 of his Twitter posts overnight. Last night to this morning, he deleted over 2,500. It's like 2,496 tweets between Sunday night and Monday morning deleted. And they're all bad. The number's much likely higher, the Fox News says, because the only visible post on his personal Twitter account is his response to his resurfaced post, quote, "Past social media posts from when I was younger do not reflect my current views." Some of these are from like 6-8 years ago. What do you mean when you were younger? When you were 12? When you were 5? What? Past social media posts. Okay, he was in his 20s when he made these posts. That's not his past when he was younger. I mean, period. I support this administration's agenda and will continue my communications work focused on our climate, environmental policies. Oh, he's way out there, leftist. Here's some of the things that he's tweeted that he has deleted, but we all have. If you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see it. Follow me on Twitter at Chris Krok Show. That's at Chris Krok Show. Quote, cheersing in bars. Like, what does cheersing mean? I guess that means giving a cheers and toasting or something. Cheersing in bars to ending the occupation of Palestine. No shame and full F word. F your glares. Hashtag I support Gaza. Hashtag free Palestine. That was 10 years, almost 10 years ago. Praying for Baltimore, but praying even harder for an end to capitalistic police state motivated by explicit and implicit racial biases. He said that 10 years ago amid the riots. 9 years ago, amid the riots that were sparked after the death of Freddie Gray, a black man in police custody in Baltimore. The cops did nothing wrong. All of them were acquitted because they did nothing wrong. Here's what else he said. Appointment time to recall the modern-day police system is a direct evolution of slave patrols. Cops are a direct evolution of slave patrols and lynch mobs, he tweeted months later. In 2018, 6 years ago, he called for ICE, Homeland Security and ICE. Well, he called for ICE to be abolished. Yes, these are high-ranking Biden officials calling for ICE to be abolished. Yes. In 2014, he supported Hamas. Yes, he supports terrorists. He supported radical Iran-backed Hamas terrorist group, Fox News says, when they launched hundreds of rockets in Israel, sparking a forceful Israeli response. So he loves Hamas. He says cops are racist and lynch mobs. And he also has a history of criticizing Republicans on social media, including 7 years ago when he said the Republican Party is focused on white grievance politics. Here's my question for you on this. Do you think this new Biden hire is going too far? Do you think this is going too far? Is it stupid to hire this guy? And do you think this job candidate could be mentally ill and not qualified for this job? As I do. I think he's got mental illness issues. And do you think he'd have the job if he wasn't in the LGBTQ category? That's hard to know, right? Because if you hate the cops, if you say we're racist, here's another thing he had in he criticized photos at specific events on social media for having, quote, too many white people in attendance. He's a white guy, by the way. Too many white people in attendance. Andrew Bates, White House Deputy Press Secretary for Biden, said today we're very proud to have Tyler on the team. Yes. So what do you say? Is this going too far in hiring this guy? Do you think he'd even be have the job if he wasn't in the LGBTQ plus category? And do you think this candidate could be mentally ill and not qualified for this job as I do? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Yeah, so he says past social posts from when I was younger don't reflect my current views. Dude, some of these are 6 years old. Like, when are you accountable for what you said? Like, is it like 6 weeks and less? What is this? Dude, I wear a dress and high heels, so you can't do anything to me. No, you should be just as accountable as somebody who wears men's clothes. All right, there we go. So the more you hate our country, hate our cops, hate our government, and hate white people, even if you are white, the more likely you are to get a job in the Biden administration. Now, if you're a man and you wear skirt and high heels and pumps and stuff like that, then you're really more likely to get that job too. I mean, that's just it. Just like Mayor Pete, how's he doing on the job? Has anybody said he's doing a good job? But he's gay. That's all that matters. Come, look at this man. He's gay. Worship him. He's great. He's doing a great job. Come on. He's doing great. Oh, yeah. All right, now we got this guy in a dress and high heels, and he hates America and says America's too white and racist, and he thinks cops are racist and lynch mob. Hey, come over here. Yay! All right, there you go. That's it. Okay, coming up next on the Chris Krok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. Oh, I love this topic idea. The iconic Cowboys The iconic Cowboys, their cheerleaders, claim they make as much as fast food workers. What do you think about that? Is that a big deal to you? Should it bother us? That's next on the Chris Krok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.